still happens all around, right in the middle of communities, all the time. People finish up for all sorts of reasons homeless. What we need is a practical solution to that problem. The temporary camp has to be there. Something has to be done to provide for 2 million people walking out of a war zone. You have to house them, you've got to put them up in something, but what you have to do is think about how you create a solution which goes beyond that. And there are actually, and there have been, a lot of buildings put up in a lot of areas subsequent to the original canvas intent idea, which have been more of this sort of nature. These are wooden buildings or block buildings. They've got timber slats inside them, and they've got good old corrugated iron on the roof again, which turns it into a really glorified oven. We actually, about 10 years ago as Nest, used to support some orphanages outside Harare, which were built and constructed like this. And they were actually ideal, really, because you get a lot of children into a lot of houses. We got them all educated, we got them covered and protected. And we continued to feed money through to that, just as an ongoing situation. So often coming in, they were being trained and being looked after, etc., etc., etc. But it was still costing money, and nothing was improving. And unfortunately, those buildings today are no longer suitable to put the children in only 20 years after they were built, because the insects and everything else have got at the wood and eaten the wood away, and really they were always too hot to use for most of the day, so they actually had the lessons outside rather than inside the buildings, and they used the buildings to sleep in at night rather than anything else. Tin roofs are just not suitable for housing young people and giving young people a good education. So let me go to just one small instance of one way of dealing with the problem. Nest volunteers, sorry about this little nonsense there, went out to a project that we're running in Zamunya, which is Mudsi, to build an administration centre for food and malaria tablets, because it needed housing in a proper way. Because building your own home is a better solution to the problem than somebody sticking you in a tin baking oven. Everybody managed to get to the bottom of that slide? Okay? In case you can't see that, really, it says at the bottom, both projects lifted people's spirits, opened their eyes to the fact that by coming together, having faith in their own abilities, they can face and overcome the dreadful hardships that they face. These, of course, are the growing number of orphan children, coupled with dire poverty and the looming threat of lack of food. And you can see one of these things going up. Each day, teams of about 15 to 20 women from different villages dug up the sand and transported it to the site in tins on their head. Some of the builders walked long distances to the site every morning. This was built for Esther Kawazi's daughters or family, who look after a lot of the children in the area, provide home and accommodation for them. She also mentioned that in many cases, after attending a funeral, the relatives will leave and take household goods with them and simply abandon the orphan children remaining. She said that as a result, there were children living like wild animals. Esther and John Kawaii are both 80 years old, and they look after about 40 orphans. And the big problem in Zimbabwe is you're either young or you're old, or you're dead. Really. That's the major problem that Zimbabwe faces today. And it's not the only place with problems, but it's just one looming example. What Nest do is we show people locally how to build the homes for themselves. We go out there and we work with the people, show them how to build them and carry on building them. The beauty is you don't need to fly massive amounts of canvas out there, you don't need to fly massive amounts of tin out there, which is going to become ugly and eyesore. You actually dig the earth from right underneath where you're going to put your home. It's the earth right there that builds the house for you. So if you want to get rid of it 20 years down the line, when you've found permanent accommodation for everybody else again, it goes back where it came from, and it doesn't leave you with what you have in Soweto, with a permanent problem of tin and canvas, which has been there for years and will be there for many, many, many more years, because it's become a permanent home to an awful lot of people. At Nest we have all sorts of events, and we try and work with businesses and get businesses aware of what is going on and get them to donate some money towards helping us send people out to train people around the world. The event and corporate days are great team building days, they're great eye-opening days, and quite frankly they teach an awful lot of people about what earth homes are about, and they also give some school kids in this country some little mini domes, because what we do is we get people to build a little mini dome in a school's playground so that the schools have got little mini homes for the children to play in, and then they start forming links with Africa and they begin to learn quite a lot more about what's going on around the world today. In fact, when you start talking to a lot of the children in school, you begin to find out that they know quite a lot more about what happens worldwide than a lot of their parents do. Relatively speaking, how well off are we in this country? This is a little situation that staggers an awful lot of people. The average salary, the average wage today, does anybody tell me what it is? Sorry?
18,000.
18?
Yeah.
33? Huh?
18.
18 over there, and 18 and 33. 23. £23,000 is the average salary. Government figures actually only the other day, strange to say, so you may not have had a chance to see those. Yeah?
What do you mean by average? You mean
The average working person today in this country,
the
average working person today in this country earns £23,000.
average
Yeah, the average working person does. And there are some people working earning a little bit more, 9 million I think. Sad to say, there are an awful lot earning 8,000 as well. So, but the average is supposed to be 23. Now here's a figure for you. Not an individual earning 23, because there's quite a few houses where maybe two people are earning 23, or maybe one's earning 15 and one's earning 35, 36. And there are people earning different sums in a house and bringing in different sorts of income. So we have support policies which make it a bit difficult. But if your household, not you as a person, but if your household has an income of £20,000, £20,000 as your household income, you're one of the world's richest 5% of families. You're in the top 5% of the world. So you don't even have to earn the average wage in this country to be in the top 5% of the rich of the world. And when I know how poor I feel some days, when I've got to pay my rates bills and all the other bills that come pouring into the door, it is staggering, absolutely staggering to think how little so many are trying to survive on.